Well, fall is definitely in the air here in Central Virginia. I'm actually wearing a hat because I'm chilly. So, ever have one of those messes that you just know you've got to clean up, but you just don't, you just keep putting it off? That's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to clean up and get this bed back here underneath the netting back into shape. I got very disheartened last spring when I had voles that got in and destroyed a lot of the things that were growing. And then I just kind of neglected it. I didn't really plan anything for the summer. It's kind of like let it be. Well, now it's a mess, just a mess. And you can see that the vines from the blackberries are climbing over there as well. So today is nasty job day. Got to get at it. Step one is to just figure out what the heck is going on here. For one thing, I've got blackberry vines growing. I am going to do some trimming, even though they're not supposed to be trimmed until the spring. But for right now, that one's going over there. I guess I'll just go ahead and get this covering off. Like moment of truth. See what's underneath this. Oh, we have some invasive grasses. Lovely. And a kale plant that never really got eaten. Let's see how it is. Not bad. It's just going to be clean out time. I think I'll leave this kale plant here. I'm going to start pulling weeds. I can't believe I did this to this bed. Oh well. Hopefully I can get this before it goes to seed. It just can. Ah, victorious. You got to take pleasure where you can, you know. Exactly sure how I'm going to use this bed going forward. I might actually, this is invasive grass, I might actually make this the asparagus bed because it's kind of out of the way. I mean, basically, once the blackberries are done and the asparagus are done, you don't really have cause to be back here. So that might actually be a good use of it. But this is my penance for being neglectful. I think I'm going to let that kale plant stay because it's got good kale on it. This one, cut off the growing tip of it and see what happens with those side shoots. Yeah, no, it's going to go. You know what? It doesn't do much good here. It doesn't serve a huge purpose. But I do have to decide what I'm going to do. I think maybe the idea for the asparagus bed being here is a good one. And then I can kind of corral it in. On the other hand, when I do that addition in the back, I'm not going to have as many growing beds. Decisions. Got some garlic growing, or some onions growing in here. All right, so I think the next thing I'm going to do is just sort of rake out this little bit. I'm going to add some fertilizer in here, and then I'm going to put some compost in. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of spoiled hay down just as a nice mulch to cover this up. And we can see if we can get this regenerated some and over the winter and let it settle down a little bit. In the meantime, I'm just going to let those, see what happens with those onions and with those beets. Maybe we'll get a little bit of onion and beet out of here. I'll continue on my nasty jobs and make a little trip down to the compost heap. I got so disheartened when the voles got in here. It was very depressing. And I don't think they're still here, but you just never know. Okay, next is going to go fertilizer in. This is just an organic granular fertilizer that I get here locally, and it is a 343 NPK. So that is not a super strong fertilizer, but it's just going to give this some slow release. I'll kind of sprinkle it around in here. I put a little fertilizer down in the fall, sometimes in the spring when I'm refreshing beds. It'll release slowly. Next, I'm going to put in the compost. This is just a locally made compost. At any rate, this compost is made of chicken manure and leaves and nothing else. So it doesn't have any of that wood product that you often see on compost mixes. Mulch and commercially made compost is really, there are no regulations about that. I learned that from Gary Pilarchuk, who is my garden mentor over at the Rusted Garden Homestead. And so until I get my compost production really up to where I can sustain my garden fully with what I make, this is the kind that I buy. It's made in Central Virginia. I'm just going to spread this around this bed and let that settle in over the winter time. I'm putting it on about 1 inch thick, which is pretty thick. But again, what I'm looking to do here is really get this bed restored. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a nice layer of old spoiled hay down as a mulch. All right, here's the spoiled hay. And I'm going to break it up and just kind of spread it out on top of this bed. The spoiled hay is going to add organic matter to the soil. It'll be great. The worms and things will love, love, love it. It helps keep the elements from washing away good nutrient. Suppresses weeds, which is good because this bed had a lot of weeds in it. And next spring, when I want to plant, I'll just gently pull apart the mulch and plant the seedlings or transplantings in here. I know people have strong opinions about using hay versus straw in the garden, but I've used both. Both work, but if push comes to shove, I prefer actually good hay. As far as long as I know where it comes from, that is my big thing. I want to know how it's been grown. I want to make sure that it hasn't had any systemic weed suppressants sprayed on it, which happens in a lot of hay farming. As far as people say, well, don't you get a lot of grass growing in your beds? And the answer is sometimes there's some grass sprouts. They're easy enough to pull out because they're sprouting from in the hay itself. So you just pluck it out. But it's really never anything too severe or too serious, as long as you're checking your garden every now and then. Here's a little bit of kale to nibble on. I think I'm going to make a kale salad. So that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's looking pretty good. And I'm happy to have it done because I'm tired of looking at it and feeling guilty about it. So no more guilt about this bed. Yay! It's not good to feel guilty when you're gardening and doing something you enjoy. So I thank you for watching today. I hope your garden is still growing and I hope you are well. Take care. Thanks for watching.